Hello, everybody. My name is Alon,
I'm Eric.
and welcome to the second episode of our new series, Living the Cult, where we have conversations with people who want to step out of the anti-Zionist closet. And today we have with us Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Elon. Hi, Eric. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you
yeah, man.
too. And Alec, you want to tell a little bit about this series and get us kicked off?
Uh, yeah, I think like this idea, it came up a while ago that when we thought what kind of service we can give, being who we are, vocal anti-Zionist who have Israeli Jewish on their passport, who still also live in occupied Palestine, and we thought, what can we do to help the cause? And there's many things, and we all feel that I think all the people who are involved in this keep asking themselves, what can we do? What can be my contribution? And of course, nothing feels enough, and I think we all deal with that feeling, but we felt that what always is needed is to grow up the community and to grow up the ranks, and also to help people like us. And because I always had this idea that probably there is more like us that we don't know about. And I know how hard it is to start speaking up. I wanted to do it for a year already before I started, and I was planning and I didn't know how. And Alon really helped me with that when you said, come, let's talk, and put it up on YouTube. And it's part of a healing process, because as we know, people who live cults and oppressive ideology systems, speaking about it to people who from the outside world is a necessary part. You cannot heal yourself from the negative influence on your psyche if you don't speak about it. So, Alon, do you want to add something more why we do this, why we thought it's important to do this?
I think it will come up in the conversation, but maybe let's let Joe introduce
Okay.
himself and speak a bit about himself, and then we can add more.
Okay.
Okay. So like you said, my name is Joe. I'm 31. I live in Haifa, and I would say that I've been an anti-Zionist more than the last 2 years, but I wasn't really a Zionist for the last 3-4 years, but I would say that in the last year I completely considered myself like an anti-Zionist, and looks like that the October 7th had the opposite effect on me that it did for a lot of my friends. And so yeah, I want to share the process.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So yeah.
it's interesting. I just wanted to say, so I had similar that for most of the Israelis, October 7th was like kind of renewal of the patriotic feelings and feeling of connected. And to us, it did like even step farther, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to notice that. But you want to try to go a bit more back, a bit share about your history, your personal history, your family background, and how did you get to start having doubts and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. First of all, there will probably from the episodes that I've seen of you guys, I know that some of those are very similar. Also with Tato, I had a lot of things similar. First of all, I wasn't born in Israel. I was born actually in Morocco. I was brought here at like 3 years old. which some people might say the fact that I wasn't born here already affects how I'm connected here, which might be true. But I did always still have not necessarily the personal connection, but I always did admit that, like, I admit that we as Jews still have like a historical connection, even if it doesn't necessarily obviously mean like we deserve a sole ownership or something like that. And like a lot of people, I think that I was not very politically aware for most of my life here. So a lot of my opinions were basically parroting others. My parents are actually kind of different from each other. I grew up with my mom, which is more of a liberal Zionist that is the typical, yes, I know it's sad and they deserve better treatment, but stuff like that. She always did. To be fair, does advocate for the better treatment of Palestinians, but still believes that a Jewish state needs to exist. And my father is way less liberal. He's way more open about his disdain of Palestinian and how that is only for the Jews, which is kind of funny because he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in any of the Jewish mythos. So I was more leaning towards the liberal side because I grew up with my mom most of my life. But it's kind of the unspoken thing that, like, usually these conversations don't go very deep. It's like you usually end up with it's sad and there's nothing we can do, or that's the best we can have. So I'd
Can I ask
say,
you, Joe, please, are both your parents from Morocco? Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
yeah,
And so both of them were born in Morocco and they met in Morocco and you were born in Morocco,
yeah.
right? So what caused them to move to what they called Israel? So that was almost 30 years ago, right? That they moved
Yeah.
here. What caused them to move? And do you know the story?
I know like the general details. Never understood too much. I know that financial situation and also like and in the 90s, Morocco was always relatively friendly to Israel and Jews, so there wasn't very much tension. But still, or in the other Middle Eastern countries and Arab countries, there was a bit of rising tension. So my parents started to feel less comfortable, and in addition to a financial stress, my parents debated whether they wanted Israel or Canada or other French-speaking countries, and actually, my mom was the deciding factor in choosing Israel because she used to tell me this as a joke, but I'm not sure how much it's a joke. But she was afraid that I'm being assimilated a bit too much with the locals, Muslims. For my mom, like, Judaism was always very important, even though she's, again, like the tolerant kind of facade, in my opinion. But I remember once she told me that I asked her why we don't do Ramadan like the neighbors, and she said, "Yeah, okay, Israel it is, not Canada, Israel. I want you to have like Jewish kind of upbringing." So yeah, that's why they chose Israel.
But it's funny because Jews lived in Muslim countries for so many years and they
Yeah.
have been able to keep their Judaism and there was no problem of I don't think it's a problem, yeah, but assimilation and like there was coexistence. But still, it's interesting. Like,
I think
yeah,
it's interesting how every single personal story that we hear, and in this particular series, yours is the second, and there might be more to come. But in our, general work, we've gone through several stories of people who came here, who were absorbed by this Zionist cult, and it's funny to me how every personal story like includes the ingredients of the general
yeah,
movement. It's like, okay, you have it hard financially, or you feel estranged in the country that you supposedly belong to, and will threaten you with like hatred and violence and racism, which does exist but maybe is overblown. And maybe you feel a connection to your religion, so here, come, and we'll help you, maintain the religion, and your son will not be surrounded by those scary Muslims who might, convert him, chas v'chalila, and then so come, and then the arrangement of considerations just builds up to, okay, so we will come. And this is the way that it worked for millions of people. It's not most people who came here to occupy Palestine in the like in this framework of the Zionist project. I don't know if they had such strong feelings about the specific Zionist project, and they wanted to give their lives to maintain it, but just an accumulation of some circumstances, and then it's like, okay, we'll go there.
Yes, actually, it's that's how a lot of cults actually operate. Like you said it in previous episodes, like preying on vulnerable people, even if they're not necessarily committed to your cause, they're useful to the cause just because you give them something that they need or want, like as a bargaining tool.
Yes.
And
if we can continue this line of argumentation, once you join the cult, your fate is now entangled into the fate of the cult, and now you suddenly feel committed to the cult,
yeah,
like your parents, like you said, your parents are now. The moment you
yeah,
join the cult, the process accelerates, and now you become assimilated to the cult.
yeah.
yeah, and you're also not aware of like what you are giving up when you join. But after, like, I think it can explain why so many let's say at the beginning, Zionism didn't succeed with Jews from Arab countries. Like at first, like they said, why we are living here with our neighbors. We don't need to go somewhere else. Like many of them, I think, when Zionism just started. But after you're already on board, that's it. Like there's no turning back. You have to. It's kind of you bet your cards on something, and now like you go all the
Sunken
way.
cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Gambler's
So
ruin in another name. It's when you've bet enough so that now you're committed to the bet, so you
yeah.
will continue betting more and more, putting more and more on the line.
Yeah, I think many, in a way, all of the Zionists have this aspect in why they're so committed to this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Joe, maybe continue speaking about your family, about your own story.
Yeah. So, like I said, I wasn't very politically literate and aware. And I like it was my for the most part it was like what I've heard on the news is what I repeat and stuff like that. On they want to kill us and we're just a poor little country in the Middle East and we're surrounded by enemies. I wonder why. And and I think all that with still like an understanding that yeah, it's a vicious cycle, and I would like to have peace. This was at least my opinion. That I would like to have peace, but they don't want it. That was my general take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it started to shift around like 2-3 years ago, or a bit more. First of all, I studied in Jerusalem, in Bezalel, so there were a lot of Palestinian students, and the fact that I didn't really have any connections with them, but the fact that still hearing them speak a bit more closely to me, like opened that door just a little bit to hearing their perspective a bit differently. And yeah, sorry.
I just want to say to our audience, what is Bezalel? Bezalel is an arts college, right? It's not a university,
Yeah.
it's a college, right? It's an arts college in Jerusalem. And it's funny that you say about Palestinian students in Bezalel. I had a similar experience when I was studying mathematics in Tel Aviv University. And I know that in many of my classes, there were Palestinian students, Palestinian Israelis or Arab Israelis, as they are called by this regime. And I remember a very sharp separation. They always kept to themselves, and the Jews kept to themselves, and we didn't really interact between us. And I didn't really understand why it was like that, but I didn't have enough, I don't know, the willpower or the desire to try to break it. So I just continued normally. So you had the same experience, that there was a lot of separation between the groups, right?
Yeah, obviously it wasn't like segregated or something, but there was a general separation.
Yeah.
I always took it as like it kind of fed into my confirmation bias, and yeah, they just don't like Jews. But it still was.
When were moments where you did interact? How did that happen? When it happened? Do you have like some kind of explanation or just random?
Not one thing specific, but just since they were in their own circles, usually even in the I forgot how you say toal, like in their
Degree.
major or whatever.
Yeah.
There were majors that were overwhelmingly Palestinians for some reason, like so there was kind of like you could see that like the most of the Palestinians were in separate like hanging out spots in the campus mostly, if it's or sometimes even in the same class. But two things that happened during my time there was one, that was the Great March of Return, that a student laid out the names of the victims on the hallway, and obviously it caused a huge debate, and the Israeli students hung on the opposite side, like on the opposite wall, names of Israeli victims of terror attacks, and he opened like the entire debate of symmetry and everything. And the other thing was I wasn't very aware, like I don't really remember the cases, but there was like I think riots or something like that in Sheikh Jarrah, that some people were basically expelled or something like that, and those were my closest like experiences at the time.
Hold on, just so we're clear. So you're saying that Palestinian students who participated in the protests were expelled, or
no. I mean, My what I meant was like there was a
people expelled.
scandal
people were. Yeah. Okay.
People from Sheikh Jarrah were expelled from their lands or homes.
Yes.
Something.
Okay,
I don't really.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really remember much actually of this specific. What I do remember is that that was the first time I was like considered a leftist, I would say, because that was like, oh shit, that's not cool. Like I think it has something to do with the nation law or something like that. That this land technically belongs to Jews, whatever happens. And that was like the first time I said, oh, that's fucked up. Like we're not doing something right here. And anyway, so for the most part, that was the most political I got until like 2021 or 2, when the Kaplan protests began about the judicial reform, which in hindsight is kind of funny. But that was the first time I started even being interested in politics, because I was going through like an episode, like a depressive episode at the time, and my therapist really recommended me to not to look into politics specifically, but he told me like try try finding like a purpose or something like that. And when I heard about those stuff, it kind of it gave me a different perspective on the Israeli system. Like it started from like a more anti-capitalist place. Like it started like being one and one together. Like, oh, there's like they want the upper class wants something, we want something else, and apparently we can't actually change it by protesting or voting. There's a disconnect here. And I started getting into a bit more Marxist theory a little bit, and when the subject of division and class hierarchy came up, that was like the first the time that like the ball dropped for me. That was like, oh fuck, we're being even though I feel disempowered, like disempowered by the system, there are people that are even lower on the ladder that are basically used as a boogeyman for me. Like, as long as we have that enemy, that one goal that, oh, we can't deal with those important stuff you want, we have these people to deal with that try to kill us. It felt like a divide and conquer, basically, tactic. And right when it started to click to me, October 7th happened. And my first thought was not, obviously, it was obviously, oh shit, that's terrible. But the second thought was, Gaza is fucked. Like, that was my reaction to that. And when I saw like a TikTok or a real whatever of someone actually being like happy about the wall being broken down, it at first it offended me, because like 1,200 people died. It's still but I started reading the comments, and I saw a lot of people not focusing on that, which, okay, it's a choice, but focusing on the fact that there was a wall there. Like, it never clicked to me. There is a wall, that they have like 3 walls and an ocean, and we control all of that. And I had to, like, I said, okay, I'm gonna shut up. I'm not gonna start saying, but October 7th, and people died. I know I'm gonna deal with the grief myself, but I'm going to start listening to Palestinian people, and starting to see more and more images from Gaza at the same time, and listening to the voices started completely changing how I felt about the situation, and it stopped feeling like a conflict, because a conflict is 2 equal sides. And the more I learned about it, the less it felt like an equal side, and the more stuff like they don't want peace started making less and less sense. Like, to me, like, in order for peace to happen, there needs to be some sort of justice, some recognition, and some sort of reparation, and like fixing the situation. Like you say, a lot of times when people in Israel talk about peace, they mean quiet, and when Palestinians talk about peace, they mean justice and like being treated fairly. And so yeah, I started having a bit of discussions about this with my Israeli friends, and I started noticing like how much I'm on a different path than them, because a lot of them started like especially like the non-political friends were like, yeah, after October 7th, I started reading a bit, and I gotta say, man, like those Arabs aren't okay. Like they're not cool. We offer them land, we offer them peace, we offer that, and every time it became like an argument, and so I just started dialing it down. But for me, it was like I already knew about those we offer them peace arguments and stuff, but for the first time I realized what those offering actually were. And it's like, I'm taking your house, but I'm letting you keep the basement, and you can't leave the basement. That was like, that's how it felt for me.
Joe, can I ask how did your attitude towards these kinds of arguments changed? Is it because you learned new facts? Is it because you heard people talking about it, I don't know, on YouTube or whatever, talking about it in a different way? Is it because you just thought for yourself for the first time and analyzed it? What happened that made you see it so differently?
Learning new facts mostly. Learning new facts, and again, shutting the hell up with my counter, like with the resisting the urge to reply, and like listening for a sec, and understanding what those facts mean. Like I never, like for example, about the blockade of Gaza, everyone in Israel knows there's like that Gaza is kind of like isolated and blocked, but we never think about it like a single step further. We don't consider why that is, what that means for them. We just say, but we're giving them food and electricity, without understanding that it means we control the food and electricity and water. So realizing that they can't even use their own, like they can't, every time they try to do something like for a port, Israel like doesn't let them do that. Israel controls the borders completely, even like when it touches Egypt, like that Israel has so much power over these people, that they don't really have any other choice but to, if they want out, they need to force their way out. Understanding what the Oslo Accords mean, understanding what the I don't know how they call it in English, the Itnatkut in 2005.
Disengagement.
Disengagement, when we saw quote unquote left Gaza, what it actually meant. Finally understanding what is the situation in the West Bank. It took me like 30 years understanding what occupation means, what apartheid means. Like for years, my instinct was we hear those words and we automatically like reject them and deny them before actually Googling those the criteria for those words and saying, okay, the definition means A, B, C, D, like separating them into like small little bubbles, and not letting them have their own sovereignty. And so learning what the words that are used against Israel mean, and learning about the history before 1948 were big parts of changing my attitude, because I was only fed like a very small part of the image. And it was like, we came here and there were no one here, but somehow Palestinians were here, but somehow Palestinians don't exist. And then they started killing us, so we had to like push them into prison, and that's it. That's pretty much the story. So reading those in betweens kind of changed it.
It's interesting to ask like what Israelis do know and what they don't know. It's not such an easy question to answer.
Right.
Because I feel like you said, they know Gaza is besieged and they know many civilians are being killed now. All this stuff they know, right? It's not like that they say, oh, really? Like you present them with these facts, but it's somehow the context is twisted. The the cause and effect, like what caused
Mhm.
what, is twisted. And also, and I feel that the most twisted is like we always, like I was thinking, what made you before, and me also, and it's a question for all three of us, like what made us before coming to these realizations kind of being okay with the situation? Like what made us feel that we can actually live with it and it's not that bad? Because I think this mentality of most Israelis, that's what led to October 7th, right? That's
Mhm.
like that we thought, yeah, okay, there is something, and like you said about your mother, we need to treat them better. But
Yeah.
it's not a problem that it's like, fuck, there's horrific things that is like only the people who were truly aware, like said it's gonna blow up in our face. Like it's not, beside the fact that it's horrific for itself, it's also unsustainable. But for
Yeah.
most of Israelis, it does feel sustainable. It feels like we can actually live quite good life next to this concentration camp that is 1 hour away. I don't think people in Tel Aviv now are bothered when you see them on the beach. And I'm trying to understand what makes up this mindset. I don't know what's my answer for this, but I thought maybe you guys have something to.
I saw something this morning that made me think about something connected. I don't know if it's an answer to what you're saying. So there's this guy on YouTube, Corey. His name is who ask whatever he asks people. He asks Jews and Palestinians in
Yeah, this Canadian guy.
the Canadian guy, yeah, the Zionist Canadian guy. And
Yeah.
I saw a short clip of him asking a couple of guys in central Tel Aviv about right of return. And the cool part of this specific video is that after they answer comes another guy who's close to our opinion, and he starts saying about how all Palestinians are refugees and this is horrible what we're doing to them, and so forth and so forth and so on. But this is not the point. The point is that what they say about right of, like the moment that they understand that this guy is talking about right of return for Palestinians and asking them about that, it takes like a minute or two before they even understand that this is the question, and then they go, no, no way, no way, no way, like immediately,
Yeah.
something about them changes completely, and they're like, no way. And then I think about myself, and I was never in that position. And basically, my position was, "What do you mean right of return? I don't know what it means. I
Yeah.
never
Exactly.
like I don't even know what the issue is." And I was surprised that these people were so much against it because they seem like the normal, disconnected Tel Avivians. This is the impression that I got,
Uh-huh.
and it I am surprised in the last couple of years where I became more aware to find out how many Israelis have an opinion, know about what right of return is, have an opinion about it, and have such a definite opinion about it that it's like a complete no-go. So I don't know if this answers your question or just raises more questions. What do you think, Joe, about this entire thing?
First of all, I had very similar experiences too, like not fully understanding what the right of return is for a lot of time, and when this discussion came up, it wasn't even in the context of specifically Palestinians. A lot of times when I was just in political discussions with people, and that I said that I don't like the fact that Israel considered itself first and foremost a Jewish state and then democratic. I said, no, we should be like a democratic, fully democratic state with rights, equal rights for all citizens, all inhabitants. And a lot of the time, the main objection was, yeah, but then Palestinians will get their rights, and if they do, then we're not going to exist anymore. And it always like shocked me, like that's what you like. That's the first thing you go to, and I think, at least for me, and for the closer circles that I have, I think that the major part that allowed us to live in this disconnect and like not thinking too much about it is there is a very big effort in Israel of, I wouldn't say depoliticizing stuff, but like guiding guiding your politics like very narrowly. Like a lot of stuff aren't even considered political to people in a sense, and like the war is considered apolitical for some people, which is insane. Like when the war just started, like it's not a war, sorry, when the genocide started happening, and even the Zionists that objected it and blamed Netanyahu for that, I couldn't count how many comments I've seen of people saying, let's not involve politics during war, which is, for me, was mind-blowing because it just showed me that this system it needs some sort of ignorance in the political sense. It requires us to be apolitical moderates, so-called. Like that's what it needs us to be, because the less you are aware of those things, the less you can form an opinion and the less you can act on it. So
I think this gives us an opportunity to say something general about how these things work. So when there is a system of oppression and control, one of the tools such a system can use is to designate certain positions to be apolitical and other positions to be political. And it always happens by some weird coincidence that opinions that support the continuation and the power that this system possesses are considered not political, while opinions that oppose this system or oppose the current status quo that this system created or the existence of this system are considered highly political. The more you are against the system, the more political your opinion is. And then you can also say, and this is very common in the liberal discussion, that let's not get political. Let's not put politics into this space. This is a space of work. This is a space of studies. This is a space of, I don't know, eating, whatever. These spaces are not political. And then all those people who have the normal position of supporting the system can just express themselves completely freely because their positions are not political. Like they can come in uniform or holding a gun, or they can, I don't know, eat corpses of animals. That's considered normal, or they can do all kinds of stuff that are considered normal. And then those who oppose it, no, shut up, because we don't want to get too political. Okay, so I think the more all of us notice this tool of silencing, of actual discussion, and not surrender to it, the better things can become.
Yeah, I think like the thing also in like here, talking about politics, it means fight, it means confrontation, it means many things that people don't like to do. And that's why I myself define myself in the past for a really long time as non-political person, because you get to this situation when you say, look, we get along so fine, we agree on spirituality and psychology, and we can have amazing talk about psychedelics and subconscious and collective, but then we talk about Palestinians and you support the Holocaust and I objected. So let's not talk about the Holocaust, and let's just, and you know, it's kind of a survival mechanism for me, because I wanted to get along. I wanted to like, and I'm still is, I'm saying I wanted, there's still a situation where I decide not to raise up this issue because I feel like, okay, we're just going to shout and fight and what?
Yeah.
For what? But on the other hand, I always now in the situation nowadays, I feel every time I'm not talking about it, I'm part of normalizing it. And I think all of us feel this tension, right? Because you cannot talk about it all the time. That's just the fact. Like, but Then when you don't, it means you're taking part in a society that depoliticized in order to justify the worst crimes that can exist on this planet. That's why the society is depoliticized in that way.
Exactly.
And I don't know, I wanted to ask you, Joe, like nowadays after you've gone through all of that, how do you deal with that? Because I know it's hard for me, I know it's hard for Alon, and I guess it's also hard for you, but like what is your daily experiences around that?
Yeah. So like for a lot of people, this has been like very, very isolating. What I didn't mention is when I started deconstructing all the narratives and propaganda that I believed. First of all, there's this shock of like there's like all the screens just fall, the curtain falls, and you are just like everything you used to believe is false, basically. So finding a reason for a purpose just kind of prolonged my depressive episode, I would say. But after seeing like that, how people reacted when we spoke, and the fact that my journey was like on the extreme opposite of others, I started like talking about it less and less, because I was like, I'm already dealing with like so much internal turmoil. And specifically, Eric, I hear you say that a lot, that you feel like you're being gaslit into maybe I'm doing something wrong, and maybe I'm an idiot, and so I started talking about that less and less.
I just want to say, Joe, that I have the exact same feeling, that I'm being gaslit into thinking that I'm the one
Constantly.
who's the problem. The only reason that I talk about it less is that I've experienced it for more time, so I just got used to it, you know.
Yeah.
That this
But
is.
I think you're alone. You're
No, I
more
bet.
immune. You're more immune to this.
I just
You
learned.
less take it in, and you less being convinced that maybe I'm the
That's not
problem.
true. That's not true. I think for many years I took it very much to heart when people told me that I was being aggressive, or that I'm exaggerating, or that I'm crazy, or all kinds of things. When I said already 10, 15 years ago that I predict that soon there will be extermination camps for Palestinians here in Israel. I still called it Israel, and people said that I was crazy and just exaggerating. And I thought, maybe, I don't know, maybe. And I did take it to heart, but I think that there is a process that you can do with yourself to, every time that this happened, to look at it as clearly as possible. And this is really hard, because like we are so much affected by the opinions of people around us. And there's the expression, if 3 people tell you that you are drunk, then probably you are drunk, right? But in this case, it's not true. It's not true, because everyone around you tells you that you're crazy, but it's them. It's them. And it's really hard to develop this muscle that resists it, but it's something that you can work on. And I think that we have to, because otherwise we will,
Yeah. Also, like only here, only in the context of Israeli society, where the crazy ones, because the moment you look outside, you don't feel crazy anymore, which is why in that year I started talking more with people from outside of Israel, and understanding, like, it also helped me gain a better perspective, like media wise, because sometimes a lot of things that Israelis don't see, others do see. So I got more feedback. So it's true, like you need to like start looking at like at the facts that you see, and started like more critical thinking of why would this be a lie, versus why would this be true, and stuff like that, which is not, again, not always easy. But coming back to like to how I approach these nowadays, unfortunately I barely approach it, honestly. for a while, I just kept it completely to myself. And at some point, it started like boiling up, and mainly with my parents. When they mentioned something, and it's not like that I immediately started a fight, but like I didn't ignore it, or I just replied with my opinion. Like when Israel attacked like the Iranian embassy, and my mom said, "Oh, I'm so scared. What now? Iran is after us." And I said, "We literally just attacked them," and it started opening like a discussion. That she, by the way, her reply was, "No, it wasn't for offensive reasons. We sent missiles, but not for offensive reasons." And
would she accept this kind of argument about October 7th? It wasn't for offensive reasons.
Exactly. Like when we do something, it's for a noble reason. It's always for a noble reason, and they don't get that privilege. Like them, it's always just for death.
Yes.
I saw this funny stand-up guy who said like Israel is this weird guy who come to you like and say, please help me. All of my neighbors hate me. And it's like, if somebody tells this to me, I ask like, what the fuck did you do if all of your neighbors like hate you, you know? That's the reasonable thing a normal person would ask. It's like,
yeah, like what happened? Did you burn someone's house down? I don't know. You ask questions. Like it's not like one or two neighbors. Like everyone around you is hostile. You start asking questions. Like say, three people tell you that you're drunk. Maybe you're drunk, so it applies here.
In this context,
yeah.
Yeah, but we are in this weird situation that inside Israel, we are a small minority that regarded as a strange extreme cult.
Yeah.
But on the wider world that we're part of, they are most of the more and more people are waking up to the fact that they are the extreme cult. And it's a kind of weird situation to be in. And I think and for me, like, you know what you said, that I keep having this, because I feel difficulty with this accusation of like you are talking to the outside, you're talking to the world, you know, you're because I don't know, did you like I remember when I was a kid and I always knew that there are some of these crazy Israelis who completely left the cult and they were regarded as crazy, as traitors. And even my parents, who were like left-wing liberals, they told me this kind of Israelis are like, there's something wrong with it. And sometimes you meet them abroad, you know, most of the time they leave. Did you ever heard about this kind of crazy
All the time.
Israelis?
All the time. I grew up in an environment where Smolani was a slur, like leftist was used as a slur, basically. And anyone who is not willing to be complicit in every single thing that Israel does is an insane person, is a self-hating Jew, or just someone with like crazy mental health stuff. And specifically what you said about like talking to the outside, obviously that's what cults do, but also that's what abusers do. And I feel like a lot of the also it's one of the aspects that helped me like deconstruct it more, was this comparison. Like I don't really love bringing it up because sometimes people like use it against you in arguments, but like there was abuse in my household as a child between my parents and me and everything. And some of that were more subtle, some more overt, and hearing a lot of arguments made by Zionists and generally fascist tendencies always remind me of how abusers gaslight you and how abusers bring the blame on you, and how when you blow up in response to years of abuse, now you're seen as a problem, which is also what happens when you're being silenced about your opinions about the abuse. Like for years you say, oh, Gaza is going through ABC and so many terrible things that Israel does, you're being silenced and silenced and silenced until then you blow up and say, you're irrational, like you're just crazy, that's why you're talking about this. And the thing that Israel loves playing the victim and the hero at the same time. Like sometimes we're this lion that don't mess with us, will destroy you, but at the same time we're just poor little babies and like we didn't do anything, we're just trying to live peacefully, please don't hurt us, we're under like existential threat.
It's fun. It's interesting how it can both work both ways. You can, we're going to destroy Hamas. We're going to create a new Middle East, new world order, whatever, you know. And on the other hand, we're these helpless victims, and
this is exactly the behavior of a narcissist.
Exactly.
I just imagine a narcissist now, and it's the same. Like these words are coming out of the narcissist's mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's a complete opposite in both ways, because they can't defeat militarily. Like they don't have power where they think they have, and they have power where they pretend they don't. Because if they, for example, would decide that they want to make things right with Palestinians, they could. They could take responsibility. They could rebuild. They could say we want to make it up for you for what we did in the, like, I think if Israel suddenly would turn into rational being, it could solve everything because it has all the material power, all the empire, but it doesn't have power exactly in the place where they think they do. And yeah, it's astonishing.
It almost feels like the opinions justify the action, and like the opinions fuel your actions. I'm sorry, yeah, you got it. Like the first they just act, and then they build their own view around how they acted instead of acting according to their views.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's this comparison, like to there's this saying that the personal is political, the political is personal. For me, that was mainly that part. Like a lot of the time when I heard my parents speak to each other or to me about things that I shared about going through, and when I heard Zionists talk about Palestinians' experiences, that was like it was pulled from the same guidebook, like exactly, and
denying the violence, denying the
violence, and when you can't deny it anymore, you justify it and say, well, you weren't the perfect victim, so I couldn't be that wrong. Like you weren't passive enough, you weren't like asking politely to stop being bombarded, so maybe we deserve bombarding you. That's basically it. And what you say about the thing about the power is Israeli want the power without the responsibility that comes with that power. Like when we hear people say, why is it on us to stop fighting and like giving them what they want? And it's usually for the same reason that a parent shouldn't do something to their child or force them, or for the same reason that you don't mistreat animals just like that, because you are the powerful one, they can't resist you, then the responsibility is on you. Like if they're using power, it's to escape that situation, that oppression, and that unfair power dynamic. And
but why is it that the powerful never use their power to correct things? Because like sometimes I think, and it's for both of you if you have thought about it, because if Israel and the US would say, we put now all the billions that we put on destruction in correcting and making justice, that could be the best, right? Because it could be great, and we all know that it will never happen, and it will only come through struggle and we don't know how things are going to roll up. Like I think in my mind, there is a scenario where things just escalating, and then there's a revolution in the Arab world, and it's turned out by force, and then Zionists gonna experience what they fear of, like their action can bring about what they're afraid of.
Yeah, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. And I'm seeing this happening, but I wonder, why is it always the case that it's like this? It's like so frustrating.
I have some thoughts about that, but Joe, do you have I always get to talk on this channel, so maybe Joe, you have some new thoughts to add.
I feel like the main reason that people in power don't use that power to change for the good is because power is their goal, and not for the betterment. Like seeing the world through like that class goggle, like completely changed how we view everything, including this. And it's to maintain a system where they're in power and we're left like without a voice. And if they wanted to really better the world, most of these people wouldn't be in power, because everything today is built by sociopaths for sociopaths. Like, that's how everything is built. If you're a sociopath and you don't care about stepping over other people, that's how you advance. And that's basically like that Israeli bubble. And I want to make it clear, because it's very easy to misunderstand. A lot of the time when I criticize like these things in Israeli society, then obviously you get the accusations of, being a self-hating Jew, or hating, just being a misanthrope and just hating people in general. Then I just want to preface and say that these things all come from, I would say, from the opposite, like from the love of human beings as human beings. And people can call this naive all they want, but like the hierarchy is not a natural state, in my opinion. And even if it were natural, it doesn't mean that it can't be changed, because we have natural tendency to be adaptable. And so like I talk shit a lot about the Israelis and about Israel.
It's nice. We both enjoy to hear your take on these issues. And
yes.
I'm also mainly saying it for my friends that also might be listening to it later. And a lot of my friends didn't know about my opinions fully until this episode, by the way. So yeah.
Okay, so
that's why we do it, so we can, for me it works the same.
I want to ask you about this, Joe, but I will just close up the last point. That you said something that is very similar to what I would have said. So unfortunately, no new directions. But it's just because it's true, I think, that you diagnosed it correctly, like all of us diagnosed correctly, that the system is built in a way that people who want to get more power, and that this is the only thing that interests them, will get more power. But then they will not use this power for good, because that was never their goal to begin with. Otherwise, other people who only want power would have gotten there first.
Exactly.
Or replaced them. And I think that what needs to be said very explicitly here is that this is the reason that I consider myself an anarchist, that I object to this entire idea that the system should be something that rewards those who seek power for the sake of power, because we see where this leads us. So my conclusion is that the only thing we can do to bring a better situation, or the main thing, or a very important thing that we can do to bring to a better situation, is to oppose this very idea that people should be allowed or even encouraged to obtain more and more power at the expense of others. Because this leads us where we are. And now I want to ask you, Joe, so there's a few parts to this question. Like, the first part is, what kind of reactions did you get when you started going through this process of seeing the cult for what it is, and when you started speaking up against the cult, what kind of reactions did you get? Maybe I'm guessing that most of them were negative, and you can give us some example, but maybe also positive reactions. I don't know. And the second part of the question is, so you say that many of these reactions made you want to become silent and not speak out anymore because of the prices that this causes. But I want to ask you, what caused you anyway to want to speak out in this platform? I don't know if you did it in other situations as well, or are you planning to do it in other situations as well? So, like the two parts of what kind of reactions you got and what made you want to speak out anyway.
Okay, so like I'll really answer like part one, part two.
Yeah.
When I the initial reactions that I had varied actually. I did have some people who like completely blew up and like the typical accusations.
Mm-hmm.
Some were like just started an argument, but it just ended like that, went nowhere. But with my closer friends, I pushed it the least actually, because those were the people that, to be honest, that you're scared of, losing the most because they're the support system. But usually when it was brought up, it was just the surface. Like I did, like most of my friends know for the past year or two that I have been going like on the left side, but it was usually again like kind of surface level, saying, yeah, it's that's not like, it's sad, it's terrible, but I don't know how we can do that. We can change that. And usually it just dissolved, or the subject changed, and I didn't really want to push it. And after October 7th specifically, I started speaking about this less and less with my closer friends, because there was a double faceted like fear of, one, I was afraid of the reaction and rejection, and more than that, I was afraid of changing how I view my friends and how they view me, but like changing the perception. And lately, I have been starting to bring it up a little bit more again, which brings me to part two, that at a certain point, well, a part of the silence was also I can't speak and listen at the same time. So I was busy, like I was mainly absorbing and listening to the Palestinian voices and to things that helped me deconstruct, and said I won't put out my opinion until I think I have like something concrete, and then I can argue in favor of that too. And at a certain point, the ratio between how much I can tolerate being silent and how much I can tolerate like speak, like the consequences of speaking out, just flipped. And like I said, okay, I'm in most cases I prefer speaking, even if it's not like by having a discussion, like a big discussion or debate. I want to at least speak out, and I understand that I needed to process and grieve both October 7th and both my worldview changing so drastically. But like it's been over a year, and it felt like, okay, it's at a place where I can put it aside for a few moments when I speak about it and act on it. And seeing your channel also was like trumpets in the background, like seeing Israelis talking about it. So outwardly felt like this is like my a sign that I can speak about it. And when after we decided on scheduling this call, I sat down with, like, not sat down because most of my friends live far away, but like I spoke with most of my friends like individually and said, hey, listen, I'm just wanted to let you know I'm going to be on like a podcast soon. I know that you are vaguely aware of my opinions politically, but I want you to know that this is specifically about anti-Zionism. I also explained what it means for me, for most people, that it's not like destruction of the Jewish people, of course. And it's just that I want everyone on this land to be equal, and that it can be achieved if we just stop listening to what the people in the ties tell us to. And to be honest, most of like all of these the reactions to me, like to this coming out of the closet talk, were kind of positive. Like they were taking aback a little bit, but I wasn't like met with aggression or anything like that. It was like, okay, that's interesting. I'm guessing we're not gonna agree on that, but yeah, if you want me to watch it, I'll watch it later. If you want to speak with it, maybe it might not be pleasant, but I can try. That was mostly what I received, which was very validating and like relaxing to know that, okay, at least I know that I can speak about this. And I made sure that we reminded each other, like in advance, remembered that like even the ones that are in favor of the like, I don't have friends that completely agree with the genocide. The most extremist friends I have, I think, is either don't believe there's a genocide or say like it's the like, again, it's awful, but what can we do? Like, at least the people who justify this are people that are not in my vicinity, thankfully, and I wouldn't want them to be. But so even the people who are on the Zionist side, we made sure to understand each other, that none of us have our opinions out of evil or want to inflict pain or suffering. Both of us want what we feel is the better outcome, which is something that is very, very, very easily lost when it comes to this discussion usually. And also, to me, it's very easy for me to forget that even a lot of Zionists, even with all the genocidal tendencies, they're products of a lot of brainwashing and propaganda. Not that it justifies it, but it explains it. And it's very easy to forget that people don't want to kill millions just for the sake of it. And,
yeah, that it's important to say that, because I think many people around the world now, they think about Israelis and Zionists, some kind of sadistic, evil, who just want to, and most of the people here wouldn't enact these policies on these behaviors on themselves, from themselves. There's a whole system that directs them through money and propaganda, and it's such a heavy pressure. But sometimes I'm thinking, but can we just sometimes I'm getting to this point, so that you said, like, about your friend, none of like your friends are not saying, yeah, none of them is like, let's kill them all, this
yeah,
kind of type, that we know that we have those in the society, in our society. But
They're
also,
not
let's
even
say
rare.
they're
It's
not
not
rare.
rare.
But let's say
unfortunately.
none of my family and friends, from school, from whatever people I gather around life, are open genocidal. They will all either say, maybe some of them got lost in a completely detached, unpolitical bubble. They don't want to hear. Some say, like, let's say most of my close family already say it has to stop, and they are saying there are war crimes and it's horrible, but they would not say genocide. And some still say we have to do this because we have to kill Hamas. But I'm trying to look at all this variety of opinion, and I say, can I even understand those at this point? Are there's any excuse to all this? Like, I'm in a very difficult place that I say, I don't want to push I don't want my friends to push me, and I don't want me to push them, but I feel very, very detached from many people, and I feel even if they don't tell me you're bad and I tell them, I just kind of feeling of I don't want to be around you if you don't want to look and if you don't want to see and you see what I'm posting for over in a half and you're not even interested. And for them, they look at me and they say like you completely sided with the other side and you don't even talk, and there's this kind of tendency just to like it happens by itself, but I surround myself, even though it's a very small group of people, but most of the people I'm surrounding myself on daily basis are people who are where I'm at, like most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like I just don't, like, like Germans who were anti-Nazis during the Holocaust who left, who say like, I just don't want to be anything around that society. Sometimes I having those feeling, and sometimes I'm harsh on myself, and I think I should have leave already a year ago when people where it was clear where it's going. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like I'm very frustrated. I wish people and your friends would listen and open their eyes, because the situation now is like if you're excusing that, like you're putting such a stamp over your soul now at that point. Like how can somebody, and most of the world look at Israelis and say like, what's going on with these people? How, like when I was in the US and I was traveling, I met many people and they told me like, what's wrong with the Israelis? And I kind of tried to explain them how Israelis see it. And then I found myself like in a situation that why do I'm trying to excuse it? It's not stuff that I want to excuse.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, it's people that you love, it's people that you grew up with, it's people that you see all their goodness in other situations, and you cannot just dismiss it and say they're bad, they're evil. It's a hard situation to be in. Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
to say. It was just but
Um, for me, it reminds me. Um, I don't remember. In the last week I rewatched a lot of your episodes, like to for context again, like to refresh my memory. And there was this talk about the good and evil and their attachment to being a good person. And I feel like we also need to detach other people from like strict good and evil. I do believe that evil exists, but I don't think it's an inherent thing. And
Mhm.
uh, I think that we do need to at least that's what I try to do. Is I won't. There are things that I won't excuse, like people who actively call for the genocide or still like support the IDF like unwaveringly and wave the flag and like, yeah, fuck yeah, Israel, long live Israel and stuff. These are things that are for me evil. But people who uh, even a lot of people in Israel that are Zionists are still extremely disappointed with how the country and society function. And I think that we can't underestimate the power of how the system shapes us into these places. And without
Yeah,
like patting myself on the back, the fact that we like kind of broke out of that coding is kind of it's an like an anomaly. It's like it's not something
yeah,
that should have happened. We're like
yeah,
or on the other side of
It's a
patting myself on the back.
statistical mistake.
Yeah, we're like bugs in the code or something. We were not supposed to come out of this. We were like exposed to unexpected environments, which is why like a lot of the people who go out of the Zionist mindset and deconstructed are usually really people who weren't very entrenched in it in the same way. Like there's always like at least one aspect that is a bit different, that expose it to other people, to other environments, other facts, other factors. And for me, a lot of my friends and a lot of my social life was online for a lot of my childhood too, which always kind of exposed me already to like people. And I think that I also remember that like 2-3 years ago, I had like just this like a small argument maybe on online with it was Muslim. I don't remember exactly from where, but somehow this argument became like a normal discussion very quickly. And hearing them say that like, no, actually I don't know any Muslim who hates Jews, but I do know a lot of Muslims and Arabs who criticize Israel for what they're doing to the Palestinians, regardless of their opinion, religion. So a lot of the people that in my friend group are more assimilated to those systems that again are designed to make us complicit. Like they shape how our most basic and fundamental views of the world. For a lot of people, Muslims hate Jews is as undeniable as the sky is blue. It's not like an opinion. It's for them, it's an existential truth that creates this fear that fascist regimes prey on. Like it needs that existential fear, and that's the one thing, like point of light, that I try to remind myself when I speak with people that I care about, that I know that you are advocating or supporting or silence for something that is objectively horrible, but you were like quote unquote bred for this. You were like everything in your surrounding was always meant for you to have this, to at least be docile, even if you don't support it. Which is also what kind of pushed me beyond that fear of repercussion. I don't speak about it at work because I still like having a paycheck and paying my rent.
Yep.
But I am kind of done like silencing it unless I'm either at work or the only person in a room full of people that, in the previous building my office used to be, it was like both. Like I was in an office and like 75% of the office were like complete genocidal Zionists who kept it's like I kept hearing them in the back of my head for most of the day, saying how they want to level Gaza. Like at this time, I'm gonna have to shut up for 9 hours.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, but it's really hard. It's really hard seeing like. One thing I know is a very controversial thing to say is just like how I can understand the circumstances and factors that make a Gazan child join Hamas, I can understand the circumstance that leads an Israeli to join the IDF and be a high ranking. I might be appalled and I might be disgusted. I might hate it. I might not. I'm not excusing it. But it's an undeniable fact, and I think that people overseas that say that all Jews, all Israelis that are anti-Zionist should just go out and leave and drop their entire lives or risk everything in their life to refuse the army. I say it would be nice. I would love if it were that easy to say, fuck everything, I'm not joining the army. But people join the army because they're 17, 18 years old. and for them that's the entire world that is in danger. It's again like a cult. It's great living a cult. It's you should live a cult, but you can't expect someone to just live a cult just like that, as if they're not dependent.
Yeah, and what if you grew up in a cult and all of your material life and living and everything is dependent on the cult? So if it's our situation, right? Like mentally we're out, but physically we're here, and it's a lot of, I think if we talk about a small size cult, so you can just move to the other side of the road, but living a country when you have all your social connections, and it's not easy.
So I think this connects back to what we were saying about the cult telling you not to air out the dirty laundry outside. And I think it's ironic because I think that what we guys are doing, speaking about our experiences in a public way and in English, in a way that people around the world can listen, I think it does the opposite of what Zionists think that it does. I think that at this point, there's so much hatred throughout the world to Israel and to Israelis, not because of anti-Semitism or just innate anti-Israelism, but because people see the crimes and they are very much against it and horrified by it, and they don't understand how a society can get to a place where they commit such atrocious acts. And I think that people like us who speak very frankly and publicly about our experiences and just know that the people who support these things and do these things are people who sometimes are our family, sometimes are or used to be our friends, just normal people, basically. And that forces us to ask the question, how does this happen? And this forces us to give answers to this question. And the answer is never that they are evil people. It's always that they have been indoctrinated, that they were forced into these places, into these opinions, and to these actions by the system that controls everything around it and controls information and propaganda and indoctrination. And I think that this is, like you said, Joe, it's a very similar thing to what led us to sympathize with the Palestinian liberation struggle to begin with. Because instead of saying the Palestinians are monsters and they just do things out of hatred, we understand that there are situations that people find themselves in and that cause them to have opinions and to do certain actions. And it doesn't justify the actions. It doesn't mean that everything is okay, but I think it's important that we diagnose the problem. And I think that people like us who are not deep inside the cult, but not completely outside of it, can be a bridge that helps people understand what is going on here, and maybe in some small way would contribute to the dissolution of these walls and these separations, which is, in my opinion, the only way to really bring about positive change here.
Yeah, actually, first of all, like the entire don't air out dirty laundry is another example of how cults and fascism and abusers think alike, and narcissists. Like, don't tell people about how I treated you because then they'll think badly of me. That's it.
Maybe and, just stop doing the bad things that you're doing.
Exactly.
I don't know. That's another way to go about it.
Exactly. It's not talking shit if you're actually doing shit. So yeah. Maybe the fact that that, like you said, we're like not completely in but not completely out also helps us be the people that notice those patterns from the outside a little bit. Probably we do have maybe some blind spots. I'm sure we have. But for me, it's not like I was an outcast or something in school, but I was always like, what we call in Israel the frikim, like the alternative kids with metal and anime and stuff before it was cool. And this is by definition like a semi-outside culture, like I forgot the word, like it's a subculture, it's tarbut shulaim, and it immediately puts you in a different position than other people, which means that how people treat you as someone different already sees how they treat other different people, and it helps you see the patterns from a different perspective. So a lot of times you see people when they want to discredit anti-Zionists, for example. I see this a lot in comments that they say, "Oh, it's just someone who was bullied enough in school, so now they're bitter." But like, yeah, maybe it does have something to do with the bullying, but not in the way that I think. It's not like bitterness. It's like seeing the pattern. So I think that, again, your environment and circumstances really matter. And this is, I think, the big part of what of the Marxist and like leftist ideals, like an analysis. I'm sorry, that led me to change the way I view it, because once I heard the term the dialectical materialism and historical materialism, and how we are in a mutually like our choices and our environment influence each other like mutually, and once I started seeing it on myself, I started seeing it on other people, and it also had me start seeing it on Palestinians, and seeing this combined with, again, listening to their experiences, seeing how seeing like not only after October 7th, like hearing about people from like Rachel Corrie in 2002 that was killed, like, and getting the context of how much Israel gets away with how it treats the Palestinians, helped me see how much they're being dehumanized. Seeing how much, like, there was this soldier, Elor Azaria, a few years ago, like 10 years ago, that was it was like a media circus because he shot a Palestinian, I think, in the West Bank. And it only dawned on me lately that the only reason there was a media outrage is because there was like video proof of it. And soldiers are usually not allowed to bring their phones. So I can't say that there was like one specific event that led me there, but seeing like the context of how people's environment affected them, and I realized that if I was as dehumanized constantly, and if I had to lose so much and live in a place where I can't leave, I can't have the choice of what when I have water or not, when I have electricity or not, and that like foreign aircraft can just go over my house whenever they feel threatened and kill my family, kill my friends, and lose everything, I would have probably made similar choices. I would have probably, if I wasn't, depressed like I was here and like laying in bed, I would either choose to be depressed and lay in bed my entire life, or I would actively resist. And once this thought came across my head, I can't ignore that elephant anymore. By saying, if I were in their shoes, I would have made similar choices. I can't say all of a sudden no, but maybe they're exaggerating. Like, of course, not every action is okay, but they need to resist somehow, and they try to do everything they can with the little leeway they have. Like they're like, you can't ask your master for freedom like nicely. Like if your only choice of freedom is by like attacking your master and escaping, then that's what you're gonna do. Yeah.
I think like we were getting close to time of like wrapping it up, right? Like we've been talking already half an hour.
Hour and a half, you mean?
Hour and a half. What did I say?
You said half
an
an
hour.
Hour
and
and
you
a half.
meant you are tired.
Yeah, and I'm a bit because you say I'm a little bit busy. I'm a bit not in my best shape today.
Yeah, we wanted to do all this in person in Haifa, but then Alec woke up feeling not even close to 100%. So we're doing this anyway, but we're doing this on Zoom because the show must go on.
Yeah.
I do have one question for you, Joe. You said that one of the seeds of this process was that you went to the Kaplan protests. And I want to explain to our audience what this was about very briefly. It was basically liberal Zionist protests against attempts by the right-wing regime of Israel, like the fundamentalist Zionist regime of Israel, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, to undermine the procedural aspects of what they perceive to be Israeli democracy. Okay, this is the best explanation I can give in like under whatever number of words. And I think that this is ironic because for you, this was the beginning of a process of radicalization, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of people get stuck there. A lot of people, they can get stuck for their entire lives, basically, in this liberal Zionist place where they fight for democracy, which means that they fight for Israel as it is, which means that they fight for ethnocracy, not for democracy. But because they fight for like the superficial procedural aspects of this so-called democracy, they feel like they're fighting the good fight.
Yeah, and what's funny about it, you know, I live in a right-wing neighborhood, like Tikva, and I hear how they speak, and they also say democracy, because they say like Bibi is the will of the people, and these people are holding the military and the judicial, and they're going against, and we are the people, and so it's a whole charade that both sides are claiming that they're doing it in behalf of democracy.
Yes, in the name
and
of
it's
democracy.
Ridiculous from both sides, but the liberals, they feel they're so, you know, superior. And in one thing I agree with the people of my neighborhood, that the liberals are not in any way are better than them. They look from, like, I don't agree with both sides, but like when I hear people here outside speak, I think, they're also sure they're doing it for democracy. It's not like, oh, we want fascism. They just feel we're the majority, and all the elites are trying to maintain their power, even though they lost in the election. And it's
which is not untrue. It's not untrue.
Yeah, for them, democracy.
This part is not untrue.
Yeah, for them, democracy is usually what they perceive as the majority rule. Like, fuck the minorities, fuck whoever decided against something. If the majority wants to oppress a minority, that's okay. That's democracy. That's what they consider.
Yeah, but also when you ask them, okay, what is majority? They would say the group I'm part of.
Yeah,
always. That's basically their answer
always.
to
It's,
what
it's,
is the majority.
It's always that. Yeah.
But my question, let's get to the question and not just the introduction to the question. My question is, what led you to become more interested in actual radical leftist ideas? Like, did you find like something on YouTube? Did you look it up actively? What happened there, and how was the process of understanding these things?
there. If someone finds this clip, it's going to be like on the another article of TikTok radicalizes the youth or something. But
Okay.
Obviously, there was the general interest in Israeli politics when those protests were coming up, and it started making me look up more political, like YouTubers and TikTokers, just in general, just understanding. And I can't even remember who the specific creators that introduced me to the more Marxist ideas, but the more but at some point, the algorithm started doing its thing and showed me things even without using the words Marxist or communist or whatever. It started showing me videos of people complaining about the things that bothered me in general, like outside of the judicial and outside of Palestinians. But the fact that more and more videos of these felt like it started pointing out like the connections between like the class struggle with the Palestinians and with capitalism and everything, and there I was. I think her name is Leah. There's a communist creator that introduced me to the idea of the dialectical materialism, and that's where I started seeing like the connections about, again, like the environment and everything. And at first, like a lot of people, there's this wait, but communism is bad and anti-capitalist. And since I was already starting to be on a role of questioning things I already thought, there was the aspect of I'm not sure I'm being very coherent. I'm sorry, but
no, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So outside of the materialism, the fact that, like we said earlier, the thing about democracy, I saw a quote from Lenin about like something like the moderates will always scream like democracy, democracy, but Marxists will always ask democracy for who? And I think it's safe to say that maybe if it's not the one quote that changed me or something like this, but it's this mentality, like when I started like seeing this, that differentiating like those classes and like those hierarchies made me realize also about the fact that those protests are not enough, like that those protests are not about democracy, they're about democracy for the Jewish people, which is also when I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, this interview, that I had those people that told me, no, we don't want a full democracy with equal rights for everyone, because then non-Jews will be the majority. That was around the same time also that those talks happened. And like this, I think we like started completely connecting the dots. Like, okay, so Israel not being a democracy is one thing, but Israeli being specifically for the Jews is like intertwined with that. It has to come together. And if I want a democracy and I also want to be consistent with my values, then my democracy can't be only democracy for my group. It has to be like a democracy for everyone. And seeing people demonize the protesters who aren't that radical in the first place, because some of them were anti-occupation and said we need the democracy to be spread for everyone. And when I see that people advocate against that, that was like, okay, so even the liberals here don't really want a democracy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it is just a true fact that these liberal protests, the protesters keep shouting democracy, 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 and Lenin was talking exactly about this specific
Yeah.
phenomenon. So maybe this is why it struck a chord with you, and you were like, "Oh, he's speaking about these guys," and then everything
Yeah.
started.
But it's kind of amazing, huh? So many years after, it's exactly, the quote is exactly
It's the same.
relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that and again, learning definitions for once, like understanding what apartheid is. So, oh, it kind of is what's happening in Israel.
Yes.
Occupation.
I
Oh,
think,
it's
by
also
the
what's
way, that
kind.
Israel,
Sorry.
today I had this thought that Israel is way worse than apartheid. Because apartheid, I think South Africa's apartheid was more about exploitation, and
Yeah.
Israel apartheid is about extermination. Like, now it's very clear. It's not about using the people for cheap labor. It's about replacing them.
Yeah.
It was also about that for a time. Okay, it's mixed, right?
It's
If they
mixed.
can exploit, they will exploit. If they can exterminate, they will exterminate.
Yeah, they will exploit them until there's nothing left to exploit.
I also wanted to point out one last irony about these protests, the Kaplan protests, which connects with what we talked about before. I remember that many times when people wanted to speak about even the occupation, you know, or go further than that and talk about anti-Zionism and freeing Palestine, I remember a lot of reactions along the lines of don't make the protests political.
Yeah, it's the depoliticization of everything. Yes.
Depolitization of protests. Because otherwise we will not have enough power and we will not get what we want, which is not political.
Yeah, exactly. And also the phrase "Free Palestine." Like, I think this is also like a good chance to like summarize like real quick. Like,
I just want to say I really love that TikTok is radicalizing our youth. Okay,
I love it too.
I think it's true, and I don't see it as a problem. And I think YouTube is also radicalizing our youth, and maybe also the elderly, and maybe all ages.
Hopefully.
So this is the opportunity, Joe. Let's radicalize our youth and say your radical position about what's going on here. Okay?
Yeah. So when I say free Palestine, when I call for like from the river to the sea, obviously it's a scary phrase for everyone in Israel. And what I mean by that is I don't want my safe haven to be built on other people's hell, and I want everyone from the river to the sea to have equal rights. And if that means that this state is not considered a Jewish state, then so be it. And if Palestine will start to be like an Islamic state, then I would protest that too, and I would fight for the equal rights of the non-Muslims people as well. And what I want is a system, is the dismantling of a system of any kind of supremacy on this land. And if it's Palestine, if it's Israel, if it's Narnia, I really don't care how it's called. What I want is that those people are treated fairly, because people who are treated fairly do not commit October 7th attacks. People who are treated fairly don't risk their existence for just a little shred of hope. And it's easy to say that I'm naive for that, but I think that it's more naive to expect that you can force your way in subjugating or exterminating an entire people. It didn't work in the past. It's not working now, and it's never going to work. And so I think it's a very good opportunity for me to say, from the river to the sea, free Palestine. And that has nothing to do with not being this has nothing to do with Jews or Muslims. This is not a religion war, and it's not a war. And that's my whole take on it.
Thank you, Joe. I think
Thank you
maybe we
so
need
much.
to Yeah, we need to cut this as a separate video.
Yes.
I think you're amazing. You're amazing to come here.
Thank you. You guys are great. I'm really happy to be here.
And yeah, and I think sometimes I feel like I get frustrated, but that nothing works. And just now I saw a message about like 20 people who just now got massacred in Gaza, and
Yeah.
and like I think most of them are children again. But we are now creating the future situation that this thing will not be possible anymore.
Yes.
And this is what we're working for. Unfortunately, we were not aware enough and united enough to stop the present atrocities. That's the truth. But at least now we're trying.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of guilt that usually comes, and
Yeah.
like you said, we're trying, and it's better to wake up now than not waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you so much, Joe, for coming on here and for
Thank you, guys.
saying the things that you are saying so clearly and openly and publicly, saying, I was born into the cult, but I will not let it affect me for my entire life. I want to liberate myself from the cult. I want to say in a very public and direct way that this cult is a problem and needs to be dismantled. And that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. And I think that the more people have the courage to say it publicly, then we might encourage more and more and more people to say it more and more and more directly, more and more and more publicly. Maybe we can encourage people to even consider that this is a possibility, to consider that this is a position that is not crazy. Maybe it's even the rational position, maybe it's even the moral position, maybe it's even the correct position.
Yes.
So this is what we're trying to do.
It is the correct position. I don't mind saying, like, not sounding objective or whatever. I don't think that like human rights is a debatable issue. I think that like no matter what you feel about Palestinians, if you like them or not, whatever you feel about the safety of Israel, you can want the safety of your country and people without subjugating and exterminating.
Yeah, and no one would accept that in order to ensure safety of one group, you can infinitely harm other groups. Like it's not something that it's only in the Zionist mind it makes sense, but it's like, and when you create a system that this is the logic, and it's create also the group that supposedly it's done for, they're also unsafe and they also suffer. So
yeah.
Okay, guys, I think we've been going on for
a
long
long
enough.
time. Yes.
So thank you, Elik. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on and for doing this brave thing. And hopefully,
thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
And our viewers, if you want to come out of the closet, you can contact us. We already have. I got approached by already another guy, Alon, so maybe he will be the next. So it's good. I'm happy. Like people approaching us. So keep doing it, and then this series will be alive and will get more influence.
Yes, and hopefully each of these episodes is something that also helps our guest. Joe, I hope that this is, another cornerstone in you becoming more active and
Yes.
resisting this, and we can create more connections, more solidarity, more cooperation, more strength, so that we can really resist the system and not just, talk about how much we don't like it.
And I must say, you expressed yourself really well. So, like your voice is important. Yeah.
Yes, it's important. It can be very effective.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much to our audience for listening to us for, I think, close to 2 hours at this point.
You can cut some parts off. It's okay.
No. It's all important, and we will put it. We will leave it all in.
But we will cut reels out of it, maybe.
Yes. Some of the nicest places where you spoke against Zionism and for the freedom of Palestine, we will put that up separately.
Great.
Okay, guys. So free Palestine,
Free
down with
Palestine.
Zionism, leave the
Free
cult,
Palestine.
leave the
Leave the
cult. Anyone watching this, please do the same thing that Joe did and leave the fucking cult.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Good.